Hello and welcome to CodeChef. In this video, we'll explore some powerful ways to use while loops, like validating user input, accumulating values, using flags, nesting loops, printing patterns, and even processing strings. So let's begin. Let's start with input validation loop. Sometimes users enter wrong data like a negative number when you need positive. An input validation loops keeps asking until the user enters correct data. It's like a gatekeeper that won't let bad data pass through. The syntax is while invalid condition and asks for valid input again. Next is accumulator pattern. An accumulator is like a piggy bank that collects values. You start with 0 and keep adding to it inside the loop. It's used to calculate total sums or products. The syntax for the same is int sum is equal to 0 while condition sum plus is equal to value. Next is flag controlled loop. A flag is like a light switch. It's either on or off, 1 and 0 respectively. The loops run while the flag is on. When you want to stop, just turn off the flag off. This gives you flexible control over when to exit the loop. The syntax for the same is int flag is equal to 1, while flag, and you add the code there, and if condition is true, flag equals 0, and you close the braces. Next is nested while loops. A nested loop is a loop inside another loop. Think of it like a clock, the hour hand or the outer loop moves slowly, while the minute hand completes a full rotation for each hour. It is useful for tables, grids, and patterns. The syntax for the same is while condition 1 and then while condition 2, and you add the nested action codes. Think of it as for each iteration of the outer loop, the inner loop completes all its iteration. Next is pattern printing with while loops. Pattern printing uses nested loops where the outer loop controls how many rows to print and the inner loop controls how many items per row. By changing the inner loop's condition, you can create different shapes like triangles or pyramids. The syntax for the same is int I equals 1 while I is less than or equal to rows, int j equals 1 while j is less than or equal to columns. Printf j++ and I++ closing bracket. The outer loop controls rows. For each row, the inner loop prints columns number of stars. Then we move to a new line and go to the next row. Now let's talk about string processing loops. Strings in C end with a special character or null termination. A string processing loop goes through each character one by one until it finds a null termination, which means the string has ended. It's like reading a book page by page until you reach the end. The syntax for the same is int I is equal to 0 while string at index I not equals then I plus plus and the closing bracket. So what this means is start at position 0 while the current character is not the null terminator. Process that character and move to the next position. Now let's take a simple example that will include all of this in one code. So here we start with our basic input-output library for printf scanf, and then we include string library for string operations. Though not heavily used here, we're still going to be using it. Int main is where our program execution starts, and then we declare variables for numeral which stores user input, sum, flag, I, j, and string 100. Which is basically a character array to store word, maximum 99 characters plus the null terminator. In the next line, you can see an input validation loop where user is prompted to enter a number. Next, we read integer input and store it in the numeral. So basically, the validation loop keeps asking the user to enter a positive number, and until a positive number isn't entered, the loop keeps repeating itself. The number has to be greater than or equal to 0. If it is lesser than or equal to 0, the loop keeps repeating itself and it prints the invalid enter a positive number. So here we have entered 5 as our positive number. Next you can see accumulator pattern. which initializes count with 1. So the loop adds each number from 1 to sum to 1. For example, if number is 5, then it calculates 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5, which is 15. Then count plus plus increments counter each by each iteration, and then the printf will print the sum of the numbers from 1 to the %id and the number whatever we have entered. The flag control loop. Here the loop continues as long as flag is 1, which is true. So it asks a user for input again, and if a user enters 0, it sets the flag and it exits the loop. Otherwise, the loop keeps on continuing. So here in the nested while loop, the outer loop runs 3 times because I is equal to 1, 2 and 3. You can see if the condition is I is lesser than or equal to 3. The inner loop prints stars. So when I is equal to 1, prints 1 star. When I is equal to 2, it prints 2 star. I is equal to 3, it prints 3 stars. It basically moves to the next line after each row and it increments outer loop counter. So next is the string processing loop. Here again the user is prompted to enter a word which will be stored in the string array. So we have initializing counters and it loops until null terminator is reached at the end of the string. So now we add our word, which is hello. Here it checks if current character is a vowel, lowercase or uppercase. If yes, it increments the vowel counter. And then it is printed as a number of vowels, and whatever is the number of vowels, it is printed. And it moves to the next character. Now we complete the program with return 0 and our curly braces, and then we run our program. Here you can see our output where we entered a positive number as 5. So the sum of the numbers from 1 to 5 is 15, and we entered 0 to stop. Any other number to continue, we entered 1. So the loop continued and here it stopped. And next is the pattern. Here you can see that the pattern is for 1 asterisk, then 2 and then 3. And we entered the word hello, which had number of vowels in hello was 2. So it has printed that as well. A quick summary table so that we remember all the concepts that we covered. The input validation gets correct input, and the idea is to keep asking until it is valid. The accumulator calculates total, so it starts at 0 and it keeps adding according to whatever our input is. And the flag control is basically a flexible loop exit. It uses on off switch or true false to control loop. The nested loops, it is basically 2D structure. It loops inside a loop and it creates the structure. Pattern printing is, as you saw, we saw a pattern which was printed. It helps us understand the rows into columns. And string processing helps us read text and it loops until null terminator. And that's how you use while loops for validation. Accumulation, flags, nested loops, pattern printing, and string processing all in one program. You can head to CodeChef and try writing separate programs for each concept to strengthen your practice. I'll see you in the next video.